Erased Destiny 2, The Knower. Chapter 9, Surprise. While waiting for Etien, with her back against the wall, pondered her next move. With one ear, she listened to the nervous exchange of words in a language she did not understand. It seemed to her that Jargon deliberately spoke louder than was appropriate to add to the stress of the trader bustling between the costumes. The most difficult task they were given was to find out if a potential heir to the throne had taken refuge in Tirdam. Even storming the local stronghold and combing through the memories of all the high-ranking people did not guarantee success, and the consequence of an oversight was a civil war at best. At worst, someone as irresponsible as Elstar would take the throne.
The dresses will be ready in 3 hours. Perhaps you would allow me to invite you to a restaurant in the meantime? I would love to try the local specialties.
3 hours, you say?
Nathan wondered what else he could suggest to his companions. How could he best demonstrate his usefulness without revealing his past as a seeker?
How about we play spies?
What do you mean?
Freed from her tight red dress, didn't hide her fear. The trip appeared to be more demanding and difficult than any of duties of Mayor's daughter.
You will pretend to be tourists, each of you on a different side of the river, according to your language preferences. You will ask people about the situation in the city, about the new mayor and the fire mages. And in 3 hours, Jargon picks up our dresses.
And you? Will you go back to the apartment?
Nathan thought it would be better if he and Hume approached people together. He was afraid for the girl's safety and was also worried about her talkativeness. Ume could inadvertently reveal too much of their activities to someone and thus expose the team to unnecessary skirmishes with the guards, or the necessity to rescue from the dungeon.
I will sit in one of Tirdam's cafes with a cup of ice cream and enjoy the view of the cobblestone streets in good condition. Oh, I need to buy a nice dance shoes as well. But that can wait for half an hour. My feet hurt. Merigold always chooses 2 big shoes to make me heal her, maybe?
At first, thought Etien was joking. However, the woman sat down at one of the canopy tables, crossed her legs, and impatiently drummed her fingers on the stone tabletop. After a while, Jargon brought her a bowl of chocolate ice cream with seasonal fruit and whipped cream. In return, he received a kiss, which seemed to cover the entire bill.
You and me, we've been given a job. Come on.
What about Etien? Is he really going to sit here?
She'll use the moment of stillness to rummage through the heads of people passing by. It's hard for her to concentrate because of your constant chatter.
In the afternoon, the 3 youngest participants of the expedition returned to the apartment, where they found only Cyril. Jargon laden with dresses and accessories, Etien in a robe stained with ice cream that had leaked from the cup onto the table and then onto the clothes of the woman absorbed in learning the secrets of Tirdam. Only Yumi's appearance had not changed.
Do you have invitations?
I do. Although I had to resort to a bit of trickery. You probably won't like the role we're going to play at the party. Unfortunately, it's the anniversary of some important event and no outsiders are allowed in.
It makes no difference. I'll sneak in as a waitress and hypnotize the guards. It's just a shame that the dresses won't be of any use.
You and me will play the role of my daughter. You will be our chaperone. The most difficult task awaits Jargon, to play the part of a rich, desert bachelor who intends to marry you and me soon.
Just thinking about the masquerade that awaited him made Nathan smile broadly. The role also suited him exceptionally well, and most importantly, Etien could not send him home. At least until the morning, his participation in the mission was not in jeopardy. Etien asked Cyril to help him put on her dress, and she took a small mirror out of the bags that Jargon brought to the apartment. She looked at herself and felt helpless. Why was everything so difficult?
Does anyone here know how to do a lady's hairstyle?
It is not that I know a lot about styling. But I saw a few chaperones already and I think I could try to recreate their hairdo.
It looks like you are more useful than I thought you could be. Show me what you can do.
Jargon was so excited when touching Merigold's hair that Nathan had a hard time to maintain control over the body. He learned more and more about the methods to keep Jargon in check. For example, if Jargon blocked their movements, he was able to speak freely. So he pretended he wants to uncover the truth to Etien to get back the ability to move his hands. Because of Jargon, Nathan couldn't comb Etienne's hair as he used to do it. His agility was also much worse in the borrowed body, but it looked more natural that way. If he braided Etienne's hair as fast as he did it in his previous life, Etien would guess the truth right away.
Thank you. It is fine enough for today. So now please help him with her hairstyle, and Cyril lace my corset up. I hope you know how to do it right.
Of course. Jargon, do you have clothes to wear tonight?
Yes. I bought something that Merigold liked. I think it is fine enough for today.
Hearing her own sentence repeated by Jargon, Etien laughed. The trip to Teardam appeared to be more entertaining with every passing day. Squeezed into her red and gold dress, Yum kept fanning herself with a blue fan that didn't match her outfit so she wouldn't faint on the way to the castle. The high wedges made it even harder for the girl to move, but to play her assigned role, she had to look at least 15 years old, and Jargon was 19. The elegant outfit contrasted with the childishness of his face, so Etien gave the boy an illusion of facial hair. Although Jargon's clothing did not restrict his freedom of movement, he trudged along almost as slowly as Yumi. At the front marched the chaperone, Etien in a green dress and Cyril in an old-fashioned black and white outfit. The remaining 3 participants of the expedition were still penetrating the city dungeons or abandoned barracks. Etien used makeup to add at least 10 years to her age, stuffed her corset with stockings, and planned to replace her low-heeled shoes with high heels for the ball.
Wait, I cannot catch my breath.
It's not far now. You can do it. Unless Jargon asks you to dance.
Fat chance. I don't like dancing.
If Jargon were to dance with anyone at the ball, it would be Merigold. Angry at being assigned to Yum, he watched his friend's back swaying with every step. She walked arm in arm with Cyril as if they never disagreed, as if they knew each other well and even liked each other. She never walked with Jargon like that.
Would you dance with me?
Jargon didn't want to admit that his dance lessons were going rather badly. He was forgetting the steps. He was out of rhythm. Even Joanna, who took such good care of preparing the children for adult life, was losing patience with him. Etien wanted to tease Jargon for flirting while shopping, but the Teardamese gods forestalled her.
Welcome, distinguished guests. Please come in.
The ballroom was decorated quite modestly. Only garlands of flowers hanging from the ceiling brought a touch of color and joy to the stone interior. The white tablecloths could just as well have been used at a wake, and the gray draperies even more so. The black-clad waiters treated the guests to sweet and savory snacks, but no alcohol was served.
Well done. I will quickly familiarize myself with the local elite's view of the situation in Teardam.
Be careful, because some of them wear protective amulets.
And they hope that this will stop me?
Etien stood behind him as a chaperone. She was glad that she didn't have to make boring conversation. No one paid attention to the chaperone. Although only a few families in Sintra had employed this type of servant, the institution of the chaperone seemed to be quite popular in Teardam. Almost every second girl was accompanied by an older and more experienced woman who made sure that no one got too close to the young one. Found herself at ease in conversations about nothing. During parties organized by her father, she often had to replace her mother and entertain the guests. Only the stiff, apathetic Jargon bothered her a little. He should join in at the right moments to liven up the discussion.
Are you mute? You could help a little.
But you're doing a great job.
Cyril immersed himself in a conversation about wood prices with representatives of the local merchant guild, whose courtesy he owed for the invitation to the ball. He watched Etien jump from one consciousness to another. One glance, one captured thought was enough for her to throw her victim off balance and take control. The apparent ease with which Etien coped with the task aroused as much admiration as fear. And, unfortunately, also the interest of the guards patrolling the party. The security guards observed people behaving atypically, but whenever they approached the people manipulated by Etien, they regained their intellectual abilities. They claimed that they were perfectly fine and even felt great. To smuggle them into the ball, Cyril took advantage of the desert tradition of lavish stag parties, which was well established in Teardom. And in view of the sanctions that the palace had imposed on Teardom, the merchant guild was all the more willing to welcome the rich travelers from the desert. When it came to engaging in casual conversation, Cyril was most bothered by Jargon himself, completely out of place in his assigned role. The merchants would occasionally glance at the boy, expecting him to return the favor with an interesting conversation, or at least generous tips for the waiters. Meanwhile, Jargon stood with his back against the wall and moved his lips as if he were talking to himself.
You're not very good at pretending you come from the desert.
What do you want me to do? Recite your poetry? Or hug you and me?
I wouldn't recommend that. In the desert, you don't show affection in public, not even to your family. But you could make a toast, throw some coins into the crowd and rave about the beauty of your future wife. And it would be appropriate to talk to the hosts and thank them for the invitation.
To make it easier for Etien to manipulate the party guests unnoticed, Nathan decided to focus all the guards' attention on himself. Contrary to Jargon, who was not at all happy with the plan. Nathan threw the goblet against the stone wall. Then he thanked everyone for allowing him to celebrate the most important month in every man's life in such a special place. From praising Teardom and its rulers, he smoothly moved on to raving about the charm of his fiancée, whose hair sparkled in the moonlight and whose eyes seemed to be outshined by the brilliance of the stars. At the end of the fiery speech, which most of the guests understood about as much as Cyril, Nathan scattered silver coins around him. He was immediately surrounded by a tight cordon of waiters, each of whom tried to serve the young master and at the same time bend down to pick up a few coins. Some of the guests also approached the boy under the pretext of congratulating Nathan, assuring him of their favor and, of course, beauty. To make everything even more convincing, Etien whispered to him that she should wave her hand and smile at everyone, but absolutely not touch Jargon.
Dear guests, thank you for honoring us with your presence. Today's celebration commemorates the 38th anniversary of the negotiation of the trade treaty with the Desert Principality, which today, in light of the sanctions imposed by the Crystal Palace, takes on special significance.
Desert Principality? Etien frowned. Nothing like that had ever existed during her reign. A region with a certain degree of autonomy, yes, but definitely not a principality.
Let's raise a toast to the further development of cooperation with our closest partner, economic, political and cultural.
Cyril excused himself and returned to Jargon, sensing what was about to happen. Nothing in Teardom had changed in the last few decades. The inhabitants continued to flaunt their dislike of the rightful rulers and cultivated their supposed friendship with the desert, which had no interest in Teardom.
To celebrate the anniversary of this special date for all of us, we have organized a dance tournament. Couples, please proceed to the next room. other guests are invited to a recital by the well-known and well-liked troubadour Vanessa. But, before you set your eyes on the charms of our lovely Vanessa, remember that the prize in today's tournament is a residence with a swimming pool located in the most distinguished district of Turdham. And the keys to this residence will be handed over by none other than the mayor himself.
Etien took one look at the men accompanying her, and without hesitation pulled Cyril by the arm. She hoped that the man, who was fond of courtly methods of dispute resolution, would also be able to move to the rhythm of music and know the steps of at least the popular dances. Secondly, she considered mass hypnosis of the other contestants.
Come on, we're about to lose them.
We won't win with Etien on the dance floor. Why should we make fools of ourselves?
We're not here for pleasure. Maybe our help will be needed.
The interior of the dance arena reminded Etien of palace chambers, a windowless, elongated room decorated with draperies and paintings with a floor made of planks, so rare in Turdham. The orchestra took up position on a dais on the left. The judges sat in armchairs on the right, and the whole center was given over to the participants.
We will start traditionally with the waltz. During the warm-up, no couple will be eliminated from the competition.
Instead of swaying to the rhythm of the music, rocking in her partner's arms, Etien observed Cyril's movements. What steps and figures he knew, what style of leading he preferred. She didn't show much herself, but in the maze of couples, she wasn't even allowed to stretch her arms. In similar situations, Fidelis would fight with his elbows for the space they needed. Cyril would get out of the way.
Is everyone ready for the first dance? Excellent. Then let me announce the first dance of the evening, Mogrash.
A broad smile appeared on Merigold's face. Not only was she finally given the opportunity to dance with a not-so-bad partner, but the ball opened with her favorite dance, Etienne's favorite dance. The two personalities switched so often that they slowly ceased to distinguish each other. Etien overshadowed Merigold, which they both realized, and they both accepted this fact. Ome, whose wedge heels made it difficult to perform the turns that were very common in Mogrash, showed much less enthusiasm.
The couple standing closer to the orchestra will remain on the dance floor. The others are asked to take their places along the walls.
At least they won't trample on us.
They started with a bow. Cyril pulled Etien and she blocked him. She didn't feel like following the simple patterns. To avoid her foot, Cyril made a half turn and found himself behind his partner's back. From this position, he could only perform a lift. He grabbed Etien under the armpits and lifted her slightly off the ground to make her body circle. However, Etien had other plans. Before she lost contact with the floor, she bounced with her toes. Cyril, who was thrown off balance, went under her and Etien arched her body. In an elegant, slightly exaggerated pose, she made a circle in front of the judges. She did not intend to come down easily either. With her left hand, she grabbed her partner's shoulder to turn to face him on the fly.
What a vivid imagination she has.
Jargon watched his friend in silence. He had always wanted to dance with Merigold, dreamed of taking her in his arms and enjoying her closeness. He was sure that the girl who had been raised far from courtly life would be satisfied with simple steps, 2 turns, and maybe a few hand positions that he had mastered. However, Merigold not only danced better than any of the other women at the ball, but also forced her partner to realize her vision.
What a wonderful show! I think the jury will agree with me and all participants will go through to the second round. In the meantime, I invite the next group of candidates.
Etien and Cyril stood against the wall, and Jargon and Ame took their places in the middle of the room. Jargon counted the steps in his head so as not to get confused. Ame concentrated on her shoes, so as not to step on her dress or anyone else's.
You dance beautifully.
Thank you. It's not easy to keep up with the Queen of Palace balls, and you've succeeded. I'm impressed.
The second dance will probably be one of Turtum's typical dances. Wouldn't you like to use the break to get to know them?
Etien rested her head on the shoulder of the 50-something-year-old man accompanying her, her mind filled with images of street dances that had little in common with palace balls. Another couple, while doing a turn, bumped into Jargon, who, in order not to fall, walked behind them, holding her hand. They both swayed and almost bumped into each other.
He saved himself, but he fell out of style. He's not very musical, is he?
Jargon prefers quieter pastimes.
He took after his mother too much.
Cyril couldn't agree more with this statement. Of their 3 children, Jargon was most like Joanna and her parents, and the other 2 had died.
Thank you to all the couples. Please line up. The jury will make the decision. And our next dance will be Remba's.
Something from my home region.
It's also one of the most popular dances here. I won't give you any ground, not this time.
Excited by this assurance, Etien considered how to transform a cheerful spring dance into a war for dominance on the dance floor. She did not notice that Jargon and Hume had also qualified for the second round, which, however, made them embarrassed rather than happy. Neither of them knew how to dance Rembas.
Maybe we should withdraw.
I think it would be better that way.
Jargon hurried to the main hall, so as not to see Merigold in the arms of someone else, even his father. On the way, he grabbed a glass of something and stood against the wall. He pretended to listen to the performance of the chubby, heavily made-up Vanessa, but in fact, he was listening for sounds coming from behind the wall. Not him, Nathan.
You can't dance.
Not really. Even at my own wedding, I had a substitute for that matter.
Jargon smiled. Nathan's confession improved his mood somewhat. It made him realize that even the best heroes can't do everything. They don't have to know everything. They are not like Etien, perfect from beginning to end.